Month's VIP live call Q&A. I'm so pumped to see you. There's a lot of new faces on here. I'm excited to see so many of you in here this afternoon. Huge welcome to all the new faces in the group. We've had a number of new people join in, and what an incredible month it's been. For me, just a dream come true. I did a stage talk with Market America, thousands and thousands of people, talked about the launch of H2 tabs, the elemental magnesium tablets that effervesce into pure hydrogen gas, which I personally think is one of the most underutilized and undiscovered secrets in the whole biohacking and biooptimization world. Hydrogen's the lightest element in the universe. It's the most prevalent element in the universe. It can easily get into inflamed tissues, into our microvasculature, into our brain. The majority of our weight is made up of water, which is the majority hydrogen. These ions are very, very powerful antioxidants in the human body. We worked really hard. I only have one product, as you know, but we worked really hard to try to get the cost down to less than $1 a day, and not always be recommending things that are going to break people's budget. When we talk about cold plunging, we talk about freezing ice blocks in your Tupperware and putting them in your bathtub. When we talk about red light, we don't talk about expensive red light beds. We try to talk about natural sunlight. When we talk about these multi-$1,000 PMF mats, we try to talk about grounding, just capturing all the things that we get from Mother Nature that are beneficial, and bringing them indoors, and just reminding us to just get back in touch with Mother Nature. And then it was on the Sean Hannity show. I don't know if you guys caught the Laura Trump show on Fox News primetime. It was on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. It was her second show. It actually was the most popular show on cable news television for the weekend. So that was amazing. It beat ESPN Sports. It beat a bunch of other network shows. And they're really, really trying to give light to this Maha movement. And maybe one of the greatest blessings of my professional career is a connection to this movement that has a real opportunity to change public policy and affect hundreds of millions of lives, and not thousands or hundreds of thousands of lives. So we were on Patrick Bet-David. That actually launched today. So if you get a chance to check out the Patrick Bet-David podcast, and we launched H2 tabs. So it's been a pretty exciting month for the Ultimate Human and for my VIP community. I have a big announcement today to make to you guys that I think is going to blow your mind, something we've been working on for a very, very long time at the Ultimate Human. And I'm just trying to find ways to continually add value to this community. You might notice my team has been steadily improving the app, the content on the app, the interactivity of the app. My ability to go live in the app. You're going to see more lives from me in the app. So if you haven't downloaded that, you probably have, because you're on this live. I'll make sure that you do, and you understand how to navigate it, because I want to have more and more interaction with you. Soon we're actually going to start a healing network within this VIP group, where as soon as I get the physician group assembled, we're going to take people right from this community, have you sign the proper waivers. And when we talk about mold detox or mycotoxins or parasites or pathogens or autoimmune or all of these conditions, how amazing would it be to bring people up onto a virtual stage and actually fix the conditions that are ailing them in real time, and let you guys watch it in real time. So if you're not lucky enough to be that person, you actually understand exactly what we went through. You can tell your doctor, hey, I need to order this test. I need to start these supplements. I need to do this kind of detox. And that, to me, is the way that this message is really going to resonate and educate you guys and inspire you guys, so that we can go just transform millions of lives. So here's how these calls go for those of you that are first timers. First of all, I'll go through the pre-submitted questions. So my team takes the most commonly submitted questions, and we give credit to the person that asked it first, and we consolidate those, because that kinds of wipes out a lot of the questions that come in on the live Q&A. And so these are questions you're going to want to listen to, because generally, if a large percentage of the community has this question, you probably have it lingering in the back of your mind, or you have a loved one or someone that is suffering from a similar condition, or you have a similar question, and we'll make sure that it gets answered. After that, I'll open the floor to live questions. So my goal is to make sure that these calls are valuable, they're insightful, and they give you real actionable takeaways to optimize your health. I mean, I realized, a year and a half, 2 years ago, that if I was not able to change people's habits, I had no real impact on the balance of their lifetime. You can't supplement your way around poor sleep. You can't exercise your way around a poor diet. And so there are things that are just fundamental basics, and those basics are so important to human vitality that I want to make sure that we have a community here so we can start people from ground zero on their journey, not overwhelm them, and teach them the habits of what it's like to become the ultimate human version of themselves. If you're supposed to lose weight, having that goal it means nothing if you don't develop the habits of someone that is engaged in weight loss. If your goal is to get better sleep, unless you engage in the habits of someone who sleeps very well, there's no way that you're going to reach that goal. So life is not really a collection of goals and priorities. It's a collection of habits. You meet somebody that's in really, really good physical condition, you know one thing about them. You know exactly what their habits are, because habitual patterns manifest in our life. And very often we find ourselves a victim of brain fog or weight gain or water retention or poor sleep or poor focus and concentration or abdominal obesity or an autoimmune condition. And we just wonder, why did this happen to us? And the truth is, it didn't happen to you. It happened within you. And if it happened within you, what was it that caused this to happen? And how do we develop the habits to make that unhappen? Is that a word, unhappen? Did I just make that up? It's my show. I can make it up if I want to. So if you have any questions about the app, drop them in the chat, guys. My team is standing by, ready to help. Make sure you're getting the most out of your VIP experience. There's so many resources available. We want to make sure that you have everything you need to navigate them with ease. All right. So, are they seeing that right now? Wow. Okay. So guys, the big announcement that I want to make is, we have been working really intentionally. We started filming months ago. I've been writing for months and months and months. The team has been editing. We've been working on building a course that would take someone from ground zero, from their starting position, into being the ultimate human version of themselves. What are the habits that you need to develop? What does a whole food diet look like? What is the sleep routine? What is the morning routine? What are the travel tips? How do you navigate the grocery store? How do you navigate a restaurant in public? What are the best supplements for certain deficiencies in the human body? What does the ultimate human version of you look like? And we developed a 10-module course that I am bringing to the world at $1,795. And this will be sold for my stage talks, podcasts, interviews, lectures, so people can start this course and finish it over the next 10 one-week modules. I want you guys to know that I am giving it to the VIPs. You're not going to be out of pocket for this course. It's going to be a part of our VIP program. This way that, those of you that are further along can dive, deeper into the course. Those of you that are beginning with me can start at the beginning of this course. And it's literally going to lay out the science, the rationale why, the practical habits, and then even give you a quiz at the end to make sure that you know exactly what habit you were supposed to learn in that module. And we're going to release these. They're week-long modules. We're going to release these every single month over the course of 10 months, beginning around the last day of May. And we've worked really intentionally on it. I've had lots of course designers come to me and tell me that I should just push this out into the market. This is the community that I want to develop. This is the community that I want to educate and grow and pour the balance of my adult lifetime into. And so none of you are going to be paying $1,795. All of you, as long as you're a VIP, you're going to have access to this course. I just wanted to let you guys know when you see it launch, if you're a VIP, you're going to have free access to this course. We're also constantly talking to our brand sponsors about giving real tangible discounts to you guys. So you know that you can find those in the app. I thought of this VIP community kind of like, American Express Platinum. There's certain privileges that come with the Platinum. I want there to be privileges to you guys as VIPs, discounts, lives, private podcasts, a course at no out-of-pocket cost to you guys, as long as you maintain your VIP membership. So keep your eyes on that app. We're constantly trying to improve it, constantly trying to push more value to our VIP members. All right, we're going to start going through some of these pre-submitted questions. I may jump to the whiteboard. I know a lot of you guys like it when I get on the whiteboard, and I really like the whiteboard too. But I'll try to get through these. If it's a question that I think would be more beneficially answered, if I actually got up on the board and showed something to you, I'll do that. So Rhonda Haffen said, why does nerve pain happen and how can it be treated? There's a lot of reasons why nerve pain happens, but remember that very often our nerves are behaving to the presence of or the lack of circulation. If you've ever heard of diabetic neuropathy, right? This is a peripheral nerve condition that diabetics get. It's not because necessarily there is damage to the nerve. It's because you have compromised blood flow. So let's say I could give anyone on this call peripheral neuropathy right now, just by putting a tourniquet on your forearm. If I put a tourniquet on your forearm and waited about 15 or 20 minutes, you would begin to have peripheral neuropathy in your hands. What would happen? First, you'd start to have it tingle, then it might burn and itch, then it would go numb. You wouldn't feel pressure, even pain as much. In about an hour, I could pinch the top of your hand as hard as I could, and you wouldn't even feel it. Here's the important point. There is nothing wrong with the nerves in your hand. I just compromised the blood flow. What would happen when I took that tourniquet off? A few minutes later, all the feeling would return to your hands. The numbness and tingling would go away. The peripheral neuropathy would be gone. And so very often nerve pain and neuropathic pain is related to circulation. And so circulation can be the key here. And so very often when you injure a limb and it swells and it traps blood and actually restricts blood flow to an area of the body, you get immense pain after the injury. The actual pain post-injury is worse than the pain of the injury. So I want you to understand that this cycle, that nerves behave in an environment based on a lot of the nutrition that they need in order to function properly. You start to deprive a nerve of oxygen and blood flow. First, it begins to send signals of sensations that it's not receiving, right? I mean, I have a tourniquet on this arm and not on this arm. This hand is tingling, it's numb, it doesn't feel pressure or pain, just like this hand. The nerves in these hands are identical. There's nothing wrong with these that's not wrong with these. The only difference is the decrease in circulation. Raynaud's disease, peripheral neuropathy, diabetic peripheral neuropathy, all of these conditions are related very often to circulation. So Don Egan said, what's the best way to maintain a healthy heart and prevent heart disease? So that's kind of a super broad question, but here's the way to cardiovascular health. Here's what the literature says. First of all, we have to stop blaming the butter for what the bread did. It's not the fats, it's the high glycemic carbohydrates. The way that fat works in the blood and works in the body is like this. When you eat sugar, especially high glycemic sugars, your insulin rises. When insulin rises, the primary role of insulin is not actually to lower blood sugar, contrary to popular belief. The primary role of insulin is to block any other form of energy use in the body. So if you eat a high sugary meal and your glucose rises, your insulin will spike. What is insulin doing? It's stopping you from burning any other fuel source. Why? So that your body will then focus on the sugar and drive the sugar into the cells. And so if we know that high sugar leads to high insulin and high insulin leads to high fat, then we know that sugar can increase triglycerides in the blood. So lower glycemic diets are healthier heart diets. The other thing that is really true in cardiovascular disease is the heart is a muscle. 3 types of muscle in the body. There's smooth muscle, there's skeletal muscle, and there's cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscle is a really special type of muscle because it's actually meant to contract and beat consistently and never, ever, ever stop. And so this muscle, like any other muscle, like your bicep or your pecs or your tricep muscle, when it's exercised, this is beneficial. It makes its resting work easier. So if you want to build a healthy heart, you have to move. This is why walking, I believe, is the most underrated exercise in the world. I also believe that saturated fat in our diets is not the villain that we have plagued it to be. We're starting to realize now that healthy fish, healthy meats, yes, meats, and other forms of healthy fats are not the unheart healthy diet that we once thought. When we put pro-inflammatory things into the body, like seed oils, and I hope that by now, if you've been following me, you've gotten seed oils out of your life. But when you put these pro-inflammatory fats into the body, what this does is it causes damage to the arterial wall. It also causes cholesterol to be called to that site of injury, which starts to narrow our arteries. It starts to clog our arteries. And so exercise by far is probably the single best thing that you can do to prevent early onset cardiovascular disease. The second is to reduce your intake of high glycemic sugars. The third is to eat a diet that is low in pro-inflammatory foods. What does that look like? That looks like a whole foods diet, things that your great grandmother would recognize. Highly processed foods, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, glyphosates, microplastics, all of these things actually accumulate in a way that the body has a difficult time getting rid of, and they lead to advanced cardiovascular disease. So if you want to have a healthy heart, eat a heart-healthy diet, low in high glycemic sugars, and make sure that you're exercising every day. Zone 2 cardio, which is basically steady state, low heart rate cardio on a treadmill, 30 minutes a day, is enough to keep the doctor away. Mary Johnson, thoughts on blood filtration and whether it's beneficial for long COVID recovery. So I'm going to answer this a couple of ways. So blood filtration is the practice of taking blood out of one side of your body, running it through some type of machine and filter, and putting it back in the other side of your body. There are a number of these that you can do here in the United States. One is called EBO2 or EBOO, EBOO, which is an extra blood corporal filtration. It's essentially a way of taking the blood out of the body, putting it through a filter. You might have seen my post on this. I've done this 3 times. Putting it through a filter, having the filtered blood then go into a machine that adds ozone gas, and then having that come back into your blood, either passing through a light filter or just coming back into your body. That's probably one of the more common ways to filter your blood, other than dialysis. A second way to filter your blood, and significantly more expensive, is something called total plasma or therapeutic plasma exchange. This is where the blood leaves your body. It goes through a machine that separates your plasma from your whole blood, and it actually takes your plasma out and replaces it with something called albumin, sterile albumin. Now, why would you want to replace your plasma with a sterile compound? Because very often, a lot of the pathogens that are in our blood are hiding in our plasma. Mold spores, mycotoxins, sometimes viral pathogens, occasionally circulating tumor cells, little a proteins, and therapeutic plasma exchange can remove those, and eventually the body will replace all of that plasma. I've also had that done. I did a post about it. I did it at a place called Next Health in Los Angeles, but that is significantly more expensive. And then on the most expensive end is something called an Xterra blood filter. These are only approved in the United States for compassionate use for COVID. If it's not somebody that fits the compassionate use for COVID, that's a treatment that you have to leave the country for, and you have to go down to a U.S. hospital in Tijuana, and you actually have your blood taken out of the body, put through this Xterra blood filter, and returned back to the body. If you want to know more about that filter, I did an entire podcast with Dr. Mink Chawla, Chawla. You can Google it, Gary Brecka or The Ultimate Human and Dr. Mink Chawla, and we go deep down the rabbit hole of that. They have had success that I have read in their studies with long COVID, as little as a single filter, completely getting rid of long COVID, but those are expensive filters. They're going to be upwards of $25,000. Unfortunately, that's the kind of thing that's not covered by our modern medical system. The other type of blood filtration is a simple carbon filtration. So I would put carbon, EBO2, total plasma exchange, and then something like an Xterra blood filter in a line like that in terms of their expense, availability, and invasiveness to the more invasive, more expensive, and less available. I do believe that the future of blood filtration is very, very bright, because I personally, and maybe I should even show it to you guys. I'll show it to you but I don't have my lab on there. What would be really cool is if I was prepared for this question, which I wasn't. What I would do is I would show you what came out of my blood filter when I did EbO2 ozone, EBU ozone. There's a collection container and it collects this clear fluid of stuff that's pulling out of your body. So I sent it to a lab, ran it as urine, and it came back and showed all of the toxins that were pulled out of my blood. Bisphenols, BPAs from microplastics. I mean, look, I'm as diligent as I can be. I still have microplastics in my blood. Every single one of you guys does too. I saw glyphosate in there, even though I eat a super clean diet. I get meats from my Amish farm. We're still, yes, there was still quite a bit in there. So managing metabolic syndrome, how to improve gut health, hypertension, and high cholesterol naturally. That's Tono Chaco. So metabolic syndrome, first of all, is a syndrome of 5 things: abdominal obesity, hypertension, hyperglycemia, which is high blood glucose, low HDL cholesterol, and high triglyceride or hypertension, high triglyceride and also hypertension. Those are your 5 things that make up metabolic syndrome. Having any 2 of these 5 is bad. It sets you up for a higher risk of all-cause mortality. The number one thing that you can do to lower your risk of metabolic syndrome is lower your blood sugar. You can lower the amount of insulin spikes that you have and keep your blood sugar lower. This is why sugar is the enemy, not saturated fatty foods. Eat a whole food diet, exercise, and lower your intake of high glycemic carbohydrates. Best way, Diane Klosser says, the best way to detox mold after 9 months of exposure to black mold, having high IgG antibodies. These are the antibodies that react to that mold toxin. And then she lists the different toxins. So essentially, I say this all the time, so please write this down. The number one thing that anybody that has mold poisoning has to do, or nothing else matters, is you have to remove yourself from the moldy environment. My daughter Madison, who lived downtown Miami, started having symptoms of mold toxicity: brain fog, fatigue, mood numbness, poor sleep, really poor focus and concentration, really intense brain fog, muscle and joint aches. I suspected mold. Lo and behold, we tested her blood. Her mycotoxin level was off the charts. So I hired a service, sent the service to her condo, and they tested all the vents, and they found the species of black mold in her vents that showed up in her blood. We had a doctor write a letter to the condo association. She actually moved out the next day. We threw all of her soft fabrics away. So the number one thing that you need to do is remove yourself from a moldy environment. The second thing that you need to do is activate your natural detoxification pathways. I can't emphasize this enough. If you start taking mold detoxification products or supplements, and you just start dumping mold into the bloodstream, sporulating fungi and mold into the bloodstream, you can get really, really sick. You can get sicker from the detox than you do from the mold exposure itself. So it's great to have a qualified functional medicine doctor guide you through this, but you're going to want to activate natural detox pathways. What are those? Sauna and sweating, glutathione for your glutathione pathways, plenty of hydration, and using binders like charcoal, zeolite, or silica clay binders to actually bind those toxins in your intestinal tract and help carry them out of the body. Anytime we're asking the body to do something like eliminate waste or detoxify, we want to give it as much support as possible. Don't let it do it on its own. Give it some support. Saunas, even steam rooms. I don't like a lot of commercial steam rooms because they just vaporize the municipal water. But remember, activate your natural detoxification pathways and support it with glutathione and binders. Chad Glending, 69-year-old father, has high blood sugar, low DHEA, and very high cholesterol. Where should he focus? Okay, remember, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine. I really can't give medical advice. So don't take this as a medical recommendation. But people that have high blood sugar, low DHEA, and very high cholesterol, all of these things are connected. Obviously, for deficient DHEA, there's DHEA supplements. 25 milligrams is usually where our clinical team starts people once daily to raise DHEA. DHEA is dihydroepiandrosterone. It's the precursor that our body uses to make hormones. But the number one thing that stands out to me right here is the high blood sugar. The best three things to do for high blood sugar are intermittent fasting, exercise, and steady state cardiovascular exercise. And for those of you that may be deconditioned, like you can't walk for 45 minutes, you can't jog on a treadmill, a 15-minute walk after every meal is one of the most beneficial things that you can do for your blood sugar. Eliminate the whites for 45 days to 10 weeks, white flour, white rice, white bread, white pasta, white potatoes, and of course, all the sugars that you know about, cakes, cookies, pastries, pies, brownies, those kinds of things have to go. You have to prioritize your temple over your desires, right? I mean, there are lots of impulses that we all get as human beings that when we act on, they can sometimes lead to disastrous consequences. And it's astounding to me how many people know the consequences and still act on the impulse anyway. If you really started to view your body as a temple, if you really thought about your body as a temple, you would guard it like one. You would be cautious about what you let into the temple. We let so many thieves into our temple, and then we wonder why it's a mess. And so, guys, you're in control of that. You could start tomorrow putting this invisible fence around yourself and being very cautious about what you let into the temple. And I mean, emotionally and spiritually, this matters too. You know, I believe that a lot of people are faith deficient and they're missing a belief system. We're not connected to Mother Nature. We're not connected to each other. So these are all important ways for us to take care of our temple. Okay, so Michael Gallagher said, I never feel rested no matter how much sleep I get. I do all the sleep hacks. His Whoop tracker says he's getting enough deep and REM sleep, but he still wakes up exhausted. Okay, so this is classic. Remember the four big ones I talk about all the time: mold, mycotoxin, metals, parasites. Don't show up on labs. You actually get plenty of sleep and your body is still run down. Why? Because your immune system potentially is in a fight. And you know, when you get really good sleep, quote unquote good sleep, when you have the flu, sometimes if you look at your Whoop, you'll find you actually had a great night's sleep, and you have the flu, and you still wake up feeling like hell. You wake up sore, you wake up achy, wake up exhausted, you wake up with brain fog, and you're kind of like, well, I don't get it. I mean, I looked at my Whoop, I got a 98% sleep score. It says that my strain is low, my recovery is high, and I had deep and I had REM sleep, because very often your body actually will get good sleep even when you have the flu, but you wake up feeling exhausted. That's an extreme example of what could possibly be happening here. This happens way more often than you think. People have low-grade infections. I've known people that have had Lyme for 4 or 5 or 6 years, never knew that they had Lyme, went to every specialist in the world, saw endocrinologists. They kept telling them that their labs were fine. There was nothing wrong with them. Your liver's fine. Your kidneys are fine. Your white blood cell count's fine. Your hormones are not all over the place. And they're like, Doc, why am I so exhausted? Why am I getting sleep? And I am exhausted when I wake up in the morning. This is when you go to the next phase. The first thing you do, which you already did, who was this? Michael Gallagher. Yeah. Someone whispered, Michael Gallagher. Michael Gallagher, the first thing you did was the right thing. Do focus on your sleep. Make sure that the foundation is there, because before you start searching for these other things, make sure that you've taken care of the foundational basics. But once you have, now we need to go searching for what is the invader that is sucking the life out of me. So Clay Jordan, his wife been struggling with severe health issues and giving birth in January after thousands of dollars in tests and seeing multiple doctors, GI, cardiologist, OBGYN, primary. No one has answers. She experiences episodes of shaking, dizziness, and heart issues when standing. Doctors keep pushing medications, but she refuses to take them. This, again, not a physician. So this is not medical advice. That is something that should be evaluated by a physician, but it sounds like you've been to 6 different physicians. So if I were just looking at this from a physiology standpoint, and you say, what are the things that can cause dizziness when standing, which is very often called POTS, positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's capital POTS. This is something that can be evaluated by a cardiologist. This often happens because of four reasons: electrolyte imbalance, particularly sodium imbalance, high levels of stress and cortisol. These people very often are very, very stressed out, and they have dysregulation in the autonomic nervous system. Remember, there's two sides to your nervous system. There's something called the sympathetic nervous system. This is your fight or flight. And there's the parasympathetic side of your nervous system. This is your rest and digest. And the body should easily be able to go back and forth from fight or flight to rest and digest, right? If you actually were in a situation where you're in an intense argument and you're having a confrontational encounter, you're going to be in the sympathetic state. If you're walking into a meeting to give a presentation in front of the whole board, your boss is going to be there, and you're anxious and worried, you're in a sympathetic state. All right. If you're getting ready to go to bed at night, or you're quietly reading, or you're waking up in the morning and you're doing breath work, you should be in a parasympathetic state, a state of rest and digest. And so very often what happens is the nervous system gets stuck in this sympathetic state. When you're in a fight or flight state, a hyper excited, hyper stressed out state for a prolonged period of time, you can definitely have symptoms that lead to things like dizziness, vertigo, positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, where you actually go from changing positions and it creates dizziness, can create rapid heart rate. The other thing I might suggest you to have a doctor check out is something called Ehlers-Danlos, Elhers, Danlos, Danlos. Usually these people have hypermobile joints, so they're extremely flexible. Ehlers-Danlos is a connective tissue disorder, and way more people have it and goes undiagnosed than you might think. Peter Ungarian, experiencing extreme body aches and flu-like symptoms that feel similar to COVID vaccine side effects. However, his last vaccine was 3 years ago. Again, what could be the cause? I can't really diagnose or treat conditions. First of all, I'm not even qualified to examine you. I'm not qualified to make any kind of medical diagnosis, over a Zoom call. And even if I were, I wouldn't be, because I'm not a physician. What I would say is, when you have body aches and flu-like symptoms that seem similar to COVID, very often you have body aches and flu-like symptoms because you have a pathogen. So COVID is a viral infection, and when the body responds, it creates something called a cytokine storm, this sort of generalized inflammation. What other things can cause generalized inflammation? Lyme, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, West Nile virus. So if I were you, I would go to your doctor and I would ask them if they could do a viral panel on you, because you might not, you might not have caught the flu, but it could be another pathogenic invader, especially a virus, that causes what we call a low-grade infection. These are things that you can deal with, but they might not take you to the emergency room or force you to go to the urgent care, but these are things that you can spot on a blood test. Okay, how much time do we have? 4:07. Okay, so I want to get through a couple more real quick. Colleen Conlon says, what causes vertigo and how do you determine the best solution? Is treatment different for men versus women? Woo! Vertigo is a massive category. It can be caused by damage to the inner ear, damage to the tympanic membrane, damage to the cochlea, the cilia inside of your ear, the ear canal. It can be caused by all kinds of physical anomalies or trauma. It can also be caused by inflammation in the vestibular cortex, inflammation in the stem of the brain, where information crosses into the other side of the brain. I would need a lot more information, like just to say, what causes vertigo is a really, really big statement. You have to eliminate the anatomical possibilities and then go and look at the possible internal anomalies. Even trauma has meaning physical, mental, emotional trauma can lead to vertigo. Extreme stress can lead to vertigo. We would need to discuss, like, the onset, what makes it better, what makes it worse. Is there any hearing loss? Was there a head injury? Anything like that. So those are the kind of things you can talk to your physician about. A good EENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor should be able to rule out the anatomy and look for other causes. What can be done for cataracts other than surgery? Some interesting studies now on red light therapy and cataracts. This was Kyle Fenner. Google photobiomodulation. That's the technical term for red light therapy. Photobiomodulation and cataracts. It's going to pull up the peer-reviewed published clinical studies related to cataracts. Guys, would you can I just remind you to keep your cameras on if you don't mind? I like to see your faces. You're getting to see my face. So let's get into the questions. This is the part that I love the most. And again, I want to keep encouraging you guys to keep checking back into the app. When we launched this course last day of May, I think it's going to blow your mind, guys, how much time, effort, energy myself and my team have put into this. Like I said, I'm going to give it to this VIP group rather than sell it to you guys. Okay, is this Ayin? What? I can't read your name down there. Sorry. What is
Lane.
it? Lane. Hey, Lane.
Hey, Gary.
You're muted there. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can.
So I'm 30 years old and I have idiopathic hypertension.
My favorite.
Yeah. I work out 4 days a week. I eat clean. I eat keto diet. I'm on the H2 tabs. I drink the mineralized salt, everything you say. But nothing was working really every time I checked my blood pressure. So I finally got on a medicine called olmesartan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's brought my blood pressure down, but obviously I don't want to be on it for the rest of my life. So I've been on it for like 2 months now. And I've heard you talk about TMG and resveratrol and things, but I'm wondering what do I do to get off the olmesartan, safely?
I'm going to go to the whiteboard because I think this is a pretty common question. So if you've heard me talk about those things, you've probably seen me draw this diagram. Remember, 70% of our circulation is the part of the circulation that's actually not done by the heart, right? 70% of our circulation is what we call microvascular, right? So blood is flowing through our major arteries and our major veins, and then it reaches the smaller capillary system in the body, which is done by vasomotor activity, like a snake swallowing a mouse. And so most of what is focused on is right here, the major vasculature of the system, not what's going on right here, which is the minor vasculature system. So what are things that can help relieve pressure in our circulation? Contrast therapy, like hot and cold contrast therapy. And I'm not talking about freezing cold water to a boiling hot sauna. I'm talking about a cold tub into a warm tub, a hot shower followed by a cold shower, a sauna followed by a cold plunge between 48 and 52 degrees. Exercising the vascular system. Remember, even though these are capillaries, and some of them are arteries, they do dilate and constrict. They relax and constrict. That vascular exercise is excellent. Resveratrol is also excellent for restoring vascular laxity. TMG, as you mentioned, trimethylglycine, is something my clinical team and my licensed practitioners will give to people with elevated homocysteine. I would say if you are exercising, you're doing contrast therapy, you're eating a whole food, non-inflammatory diet, you're taking trimethylglycine, you're taking resveratrol, and you are keeping your blood sugar stable or low, meaning your hemoglobin A1C below 5.5, which is the 3-month average of your blood sugar, you are doing everything you can to address this. When they say idiopathic hypertension, they mean hypertension of an unknown origin. And it's rarely unknown. It's usually just not what they're testing for.
Okay.
All right. Awesome,
I
brother.
did have my homocysteine level checked and it was a 9.6.
That's excellent. Yeah. So contrast therapy, vinyaresveratrol, trimethylglycine, the hot and cold contrast, low heart rate cardiovascular exercise. So what we call steady state cardiovascular exercise, controlling your blood sugar, keeping your hemoglobin A1C below 5.5.
Okay. So how do I like get off the olmesartan by like when I'm doing all this stuff?
Your cardiologist will know when it's time to titrate you off of that, because you would start to become hyposystolic, right? Your blood pressure would start to become low, and then your cardiologist can advise you, hey, we're going to titrate down on your meds. There's no like magic thing to say, hey, take these 3 things and 30 days, stop taking your cardiac medication. I wouldn't be able to advise you to do that anyway. What you need to do is engage in all of the types of lifestyle activities that are known to have a healthy impact on hypertension, and then allow your cardiologist to say, hey, you know what, we can actually lower your dosage, or we can possibly take you off this medication, but that would be their call. Awesome. Thanks, brother. Yeah, super important, guys. Like, there's so much that we can do to, like, if I had, hypertension or pre-diabetes or anything, let's just fight, right? Like let's not just accept these things and say, well, I've got idiopathic hypertension, I'm going to take medication for the rest of my life. And there's never a time you say, well, let's do this for 30 days and you can just stop taking medication. Your doctor will know when they can take you off of some of these compounds, and they'll guide you through it. They put you on because your pressure was high. They'll take you off if your pressure gets low. Hi there. Is it Alicia?
Oh, hello. Oh my God.
Jen? Hi, Jen. Hi, Jen. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted. You have to take the mute off at the bottom of your screen. So what does she have to do? Check the. Yeah, you're still muted. You're muted. You're trying. You're saying you're trying. You have to take the mute off on your side. Okay. We'll come back. We'll come back to her and just put her back in line if she cannot mute. Hey, Tio.
Hey, how are you?
Amazing, man.
Nice to see you. All right, so I'm gonna be quick. I know there's a lot of people who have many questions. Sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do about it?
Well, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different types of sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea. Very often. So what happened with Dana White was, as his homocysteine level came down and he lost weight. He lost 48 pounds in his case, and also he got a pillow that kept his head slightly extended. Or sleeping at a 15-degree angle. Very often, this opens up the nasopharynx and allows for better airflow. If you did a sleep study and you were like narcoleptic a few times throughout the sleep study, or your airway was constricted and you actually stopped breathing and restarted breathing, which is usually how people get prescribed a sleep apnea machine. First of all, if you have sleep apnea, the machines can be life-saving in the beginning, pushing the oxygen in. And I know they're trying to make them more and more comfortable. But exercise, sauna, weight loss, dropping your blood sugar, especially your hemoglobin A1C, to reduce the amount of inflammation in your body. Very often this area of our nasopharynx, the back of our throat, is very susceptible to inflammation. Our tonsils, the adenoids in our throat. Dana White was actually scheduled for adenoid widening surgery to try to prevent his sleep apnea. He dropped 48 pounds and got off the sleep apnea machine. I would say the greatest chance, according to the literature, to stop taking to be off of a sleep apnea dependent machine is to lose weight. That would be the greatest, that seems to have, according to the literature, the greatest results. After that, it would be aggressively addressing inflammation in the body, homocysteine levels, having something called C-reactive protein tested, which is a generalized marker of inflammation, and then your doctor can tell you what to do from there. But I would be doing all of the things to live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. I would be drinking hydrogen water. I would certainly be exercising, even if I did steady state cardiovascular exercise as a non-negotiable. I would make certain that I wasn't eating within 3 hours of bedtime, so you're fully digested, and there's nothing inflammatory going on in the nasopharynx or the sinus cavities, when you're going to sleep. I would think about sleeping at 15 degrees, or even using one of those neck pillows to possibly extend the neck, depending on which type of obstructive sleep apnea you have. But that's definitely where I would start.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it, man. You guys are amazing. Hey, Peter. Oh, it's not Peter. Andres. Hey,
Hello.
man, you're muted.
Yes,
Hey,
I'm
dude.
sorry. Nice to meet you,
No problem.
Gary. How's it going? I'm not gonna take
It's
too
going
long.
amazing. It's really going well.
Nice to know. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Basically, I had a car accident in 2023, and I've been dealing with 5 herniated discs, 3 in my cervical and 2 in my lumbar. And since then, I've been improving my life, getting healthy habits. I'm drinking a bunch of pills like ashwagandha, antioxidants, vitamin C, liposomal, multivitamins, magnesium, a lot of things. And I also do
Sure.
yoga, I swim, and I run. However, I still experience neck pain, a lot of neck pain, basically almost
Mhm.
every day, and pain in my lumbar also.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not going to give up. I just started
Yep.
the VIP group. I also started the hydrogen. I'm still waiting for them, the hydrogen drops, and
Mhm.
also the morning routine, which have helped me in other things, but I still experience a lot of back pain. Is there something I
Yeah.
could add to my routine or something I'm lacking?
Yeah, no question. So there's something called a sync stretch. I wish these cameras were mobile. I would actually take in the other room and actually show it to you. My production team's like, don't promise that. Like these things don't move. So what I want you to do, it's extraordinarily safe stretch. By the way, anybody listening to this is a great way to start your morning. And what you do is you walk up to, it's called a sync stretch for a reason.
What if she sounds like a nice person?
What was that? You walk up to your sink and you stand about half a foot length away from the sink. Put your hands over the edge of the sink, and I want you to lean back, right, until your arms are stretched out, and then I want you to slowly drop your tailbone. I want you to drop your butt down to the. I can do it on the live cam. Okay, I'm not going to be able to actually do it, because I'll fall over, but. Put your hands over the edge of the sink, lean back, and then drop yourself down. I'm dropping straight down, but I really want to be leaning back. I would fall over if I was doing it this way. So you're holding onto the sink, drop yourself down, and think about curling your tailbone into the back of your ankles, okay? The reason why this is such a good stretch is because you have 4 points of contact. You have 2 hands and 2 feet. If at any point you feel like you pain, you can just bail out of the stretch, right? You can push with your legs and pull with your arms. Here's the most important thing. When you drop down and curl your tailbone into the back of your ankles, right? Just drop your head forward. Just relax your head and drop your head forward and stay there and breathe for a minute, not a minute, about 10 seconds. When you stand up, super important, pull with your arms. Try not to push with your legs. I want you to actually consciously think of pulling with your arms, right? There is a difference between tractioning the spine and stacking the spine. When we traction it, we actually release, we decompress the spine. When we stack it, we compress the spine. So I want you to leave your feet on the floor and pull yourself up to a standing position. The other thing that is really, really good for back pain is red light therapy. I don't know of a better treatment for back pain than red light therapy. Hydrogen water is also excellent. So because of the expense, Google around for red light therapy bed. superhuman protocol, and find a clinic where you can go in and use a red light bed. They're everywhere. You can usually use them on a membership basis. You pay a few bucks a month and you go in and you can actually lay in a red light bed. That light penetrating deep into those areas of the spine, some of the most compromised circulatory areas of the spine. And then beyond that, I would consider budget dependent. I would consider potentially going to a stem cell clinic.
Stem cell, you said? I'm sorry?
Stem cell.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
BioAccelerator, RMI. RMI is in Costa Rica. BioAccelerators in Medellin, Colombia. These are very often U.S. trained physicians in medical facilities that would meet FDA standards. And I've seen a lot of relief come to people that have done stem cell and exosome injection therapies.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Peter, is it Peter? No. Paula. Hi, Paula. Is
Hi,
she
Gary.
frozen?
Thanks for
Oh, there
taking
you
my
are.
call.
Yeah, of course.
So I was seeing a functional medicine for a couple years, and she did a panel of tests on me, found out I have Epstein-Barr. So I had mono back when I was in high school. She did a gut test on me and to see if I had a gut infection, and it showed that I can't take glutathione. So I was wondering what your other option would be for that. Also, I did do red light therapy for the Epstein-Barr infection, and my numbers actually went up. So what else should I do? What can I?
Yeah, so on an EBV panel, there's going to be something called IgG and IgM. You're going to see that on your panel. So these are whether or not the virus is dormant or active, right? If your IgG numbers are elevated, but IgM is normal, this is not an active infection. This is a past infection. It's the positive IgM where your doctors, are going to consider, should consider treating you. There are online EBV protocols that you can take, EBV detox protocols. The name escapes me for the moment, but there are online EBV protocols that help your body lower Epstein-Barr virus. Here's the other question that I would ask. If you have high EBV, you might have high other viruses like cytomegalovirus or other ones, because remember, Epstein-Barr, as you so aptly pointed out, is not a virus that you caught. It is a virus you've always had, right? You had mono as a little girl, and now you're an adult and you get Epstein-Barr. What caused the Epstein-Barr to come out of hibernation? What caused the Epstein-Barr to come out of hibernation is the immune system is fatigued. It's weakened. What's the best thing you can do to strengthen the immune system is to heal and seal the gut. I would look at, we did the gut reset challenge. I wrote an entire guide on the supplements to take, the foods to eat, to really heal and seal our gut. Because very often what happens is when contents leak out of our gut into our bloodstream, they cause this kind of low-grade fight that exhausts the immune system. And when the immune system gets exhausted, opportunistic viruses like Epstein-Barr very often can raise their ugly head. And so by keeping a really healthy immune system, so what are the things that we do for a healthy immune system? Focusing on sleep, hydration, exercise, whole food diet, non-pro-inflammatory diets, definitely keeping sugars low because the immune system hates a high glycemic environment, and healing and sealing the gut. There's some great peptides for that, BPC 157. There are great activated charcoal binders that are very inexpensive, that are excellent at pulling toxins out of the gut and allowing the intestinal wall to heal, usually avoiding gluten, dairy, and grains during that time frame that you're trying to heal and seal the gut is very, very good for your gut, avoiding all those pro-inflammatory foods, and seeing if you can help the immune system do the job it was designed to do on its own. Exercise, sleep, hydration. Hydrogen water is excellent. Red light therapy, not too early, because you're right, red light therapy can actually exacerbate an active viral infection. And then looking at the difference between whether or not your IgM titer active or IgG titer dormant is elevated, because your doctor may be looking at the titer of dormant antibodies and telling you that you have an active infection.
Okay. And then anything to detox besides the glutathione, since I can't take it?
The best, if you can't take glutathione, by far is sauna. 20 minutes, three times a week.
We just got a sauna.
Right.
And do you recommend after the cold plunge going straight into a sauna, or?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it, Paula. So we got an hour left and 33 hands raised. All right, so I'm going to try to get through these. This is like speed round, you know. I love this. All right, we're back, Jen. Okay.
Okay, now you can hear me.
Oh, there we go.
Yay. Okay, so my biggest problem is I have a really bad interstitial cystitis, which is like constant bladder pain. And so I know this is not a common topic. And I don't drink alcohol or coffee. I quit a year ago. I've switched to matcha so I could have something in the morning. I don't drink sodas or any of that stuff for a long time. How do you fix something like that when you've had a scope, you've had everything you've possible?
Yeah, so I would be using very high. There's a red light panel called a MedWave, which is a very high intensity red light panel. You actually can't lay your whole body in it. It's just a single panel that penetrates deep into the tissues. It looks something like that. I have that exact panel. Let me see the top of it. Is that an MTech? The top, like?
Oh, the top.
Yeah.
Over here. Mito.
Okay, that's a Mito Light. Okay, so that one's not going to be quite powerful enough, although that's still good, right? And the closer you get it to your abdomen, the better. If you can take the heat, lay it right on there. I don't know how many milliwatts of irradiance it is. It might be too hot to lay right on the skin. Light has what's called a foot candle. So if this is your skin and this is the light diode, the further that light diode is, the further that light spreads out and the weaker it gets. The closer the light diode is, the more likely it is to spread inside of the body. And so I'm, again, not a physician and I'm not licensed to practice medicine. If your doctor has looked at your ureters to see if very often short ureters actually can cause the bladder to be stretched in ways that actually make you feel full, make you feel like you have to urinate, can lead to cystitis. And it's often overlooked. So if you've actually not had an abdominal ultrasound, I would go to your doctor and ask them to do an abdominal ultrasound. And I would really think about high intensity photobiomodulation as close to the abdomen as you can get. Those are really good ways to restore circulation, to reduce the inflammatory process. And light heals even in non-photosensitive organelles, because our mitochondria respond to that light. And very often when you have pathological processes, it's hard to sort of get in and jumpstart the mitochondria. And one of the best ways to do it is with light therapy, high intensity light therapy. The MedWave is the one that I would use, but you could also try that one that you're using there and just put it as close as you can get to the skin. If you can stand it on the skin, if it doesn't get too hot, then you could do that. But that's definitely where I would start.
Okay. Yeah, I've put it on my skin before, but the other thing that I do, because I'm always in pain, is I sleep with a heating pad on my stomach.
That's not so bad. Yeah. I mean, sleeping with the heating pad on your stomach, if that gives you pain relief, it's giving you pain relief by improving the circulation. So very, very, very similar, very similar concept. Electrostim, I've known our OBGYN has used Electrostim for that. These are like TENS units pads that you put on top of the muscle. It's hard to get them down into the bladder unless you have a really powerful, a really powerful PEMF signal. But some of the PEMF companies make these cylindrical. They look like tennis rackets, but they're a cylinder with nothing in the middle. And you place that cylinder over your abdomen. You place the other one behind your body, and it actually runs a powerful pulse electromagnetic field through there. I know that relieves the most intense menstrual cramps for my wife. And I've seen it with other young menstruating females that have really intense menstrual cramps. It's a pulse electromagnetic field PEMF cylinder. It will look literally like a tennis racket with a tube coming out of it, and with an electrical line coming out of it, and one in the front of the abdomen and one in the back. A lot of these areas of the body have such compromised blood flow, and that it leads to pathologies that are the result of not getting adequate levels of blood flow.
Yeah, I've had a hysterectomy, and I had mold exposure and breast implants exposure.
Okay, so did you have the breast implants removed?
Yes.
Oh, good for you. Okay. That's great. I mean, then you're doing all the right things. High intensity red light therapy and pulse electromagnetic field, intense pulse electromagnetic field is where I would go if that was a condition that my wife had.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, super. Mike, I speak to you every time, you little devil. You must raise your hand as soon as you get in here. How you doing, buddy? You're muted. The mute's off, but I can't hear you.
Hang on. Got any better?
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Got you, dog.
Gary, I wanted to say thank you for your advice last month on the retinal tears. Absolute 100% game changer for me, man. So I was petrified that I was losing my vision. I can't even communicate that, the extent of it, because it's I also have tinnitus. And in my head, my creativity ran rampant, where it was I wasn't going to be able to hear and I wasn't going to be able to see. Thank you for giving me my sight. I cannot even tell you how much that means to me, Gary.
Man,
that's
amazing, brother.
Dude, I just sincerely appreciate it, because you've helped me with the tremors, like you were talking about with the blood being cut off. I had tremors when I first started coming. That led into me finding out that it was because of sitting and the nerves and everything being constricted in my armpit. You've helped my wife with her teeth as far as her root canal. So we've got a second appointment tomorrow with a holistic dentist. Dude, thank you to you, Sage, the entire team. You have been changing everything.
My team can hear you, so that means a lot to us, man. This is exactly the message that we're trying to put out into the world, and I'm happy that the rest of the VIP community is hearing this, because that's the whole idea here. Is to educate people, to inspire them to know that you may not have to live with what it is that you're suffering with. And there's a lot of risk in doing these, because I don't want people to just go out and blindly not follow medical advice. But when I hear stories like this, I know that it's God's calling for us and for this team, man. I mean, and that actually means more to us than it probably means to you. Because we put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy into these, especially into this VIP community. But when I hear stories like this, it's chicken soup for our soul, brother. And I couldn't be happier for you. What's astounding is we've lost so much faith in humanity and mankind, the body's ability to heal itself. I talk about this all the time. The best pharmacy in the world is right here, and the power that this has over this. And very often, if we just convert our symptoms into physiology and address the physiology, our symptoms go away. And that's really the whole objective of this VIP community, man. So thank you.
You've been changing my life, man. It's patience. And I will say, I've got the flag
yes
on, so.
Amazing. I should make everybody come on the VIP call in that t-shirt. That's great, dude. Amazing.
No, I've got the swag. I've got the glasses you recommended. I did want to check with you. So last month you were talking about Sermorelin and Tesamorelin, right? And I had CJC 1295 and Ipamorelin, and it still seems to be working okay in that capacity. How long, as well as like with the BPC, is that like an 8 month or not 8 month? Geez, 8
Yeah.
week.
So the general rule of thumb with peptides. First of all, what he's talking about, for those of you that are not familiar with all those fancy names, are growth hormone releasing hormones and growth hormone releasing peptides, GHRPs and GHRHs. Those are fancy ways of names for peptides, which are amino acid sequences, which influence certain organs in the body to behave in a more youthful way. So the names of those, sermorelin, ipamorelin, tesamorelin, CJC 1295 with DAC, MK 677, those are all just fancy names, but essentially these are amino acids, guys, that when you put them into the body, peptides, they will rewind your pituitary essentially to a more youthful level of growth hormone secretion. So they'll cause the growth hormone, your natural secretion of growth hormone, to go up. It's a better option, in my opinion, than taking human growth hormone from outside the body and putting it in, because then you're shutting down your natural production. So what's called the tachyphylactic protocol, which is the fancy word for desensitization. Tachyphylaxis in the body is when you repeatedly put compounds into the body and we start to desensitize to it. This is what happens if you take thyroid medication, if you take amphetamines like Adderall, if you're on pain medication for prolonged periods of time. You will notice that your dosage goes up over time. That's because your body is desensitizing, right? It's becoming tachyphylactic. It's like sitting next to a woman wearing perfume. Well, 30 minutes after you've been sitting next to her, you can't smell the perfume anymore, not because she stopped wearing it, but because you've desensitized to that smell. So the protocol for those is 5 days on and 2 days off, or 90 days straight with 10 days, with 30 days off. My preference is that you just do the weekday protocol, 5 on and 2 off. That's probably what someone on my clinical team would advise you to do. Because these are amino acids. The body rarely builds a tolerance to them. It rarely builds a dependency on them. One of the nice things about peptides is that usually when people stop taking them, your levels go back to the previous level. They don't go to zero. Like if a male took testosterone for a prolonged period of time, they'll eventually reach a point where they can't produce testosterone anymore, which is okay if you're on hormone therapy the rest of your life. But so with the peptides, the tachyphylactic protocol that our clinical team does is 5 days on, 2 days off.
And that's what I've been doing. Is it like a
Beautiful
8 week kind of thing and then come off, or is it okay to continue on? Or
it's okay to continue those, right?
Okay, cool.
It's okay to continue those. It's like, metabolites are things that we don't build a tolerance to, right? The body recognizes amino acids. It exerts its effect, and then it can eliminate the waste. Just like you eat a piece of chicken. If you ate a 1,500 calorie a day diet, just as an example, you could eat 1,500 calories a day for the rest of your life. As you ate, 10 years from now, you don't need 3,000 calories. And then 10 years later, you need 6,000 calories. You're not desensitizing to food. It's a metabolite. The body uses it, turns it into energy, eliminates the waste, which is similar to what it does very often with peptides. It recognizes those amino acids, they exert their effect, and breaks them down and eliminates the waste. That's why I'm such a big fan of peptides. BPC 157, from all the literature that I've read, you can be on indefinitely.
Okay, awesome, Gary. Thank you.
Awesome, guys.
And I added methylene blue as well.
Methylene blue. I should do a whole talk. You know what? Maybe I'll open the next VIP talk talking about methylene blue.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
You got it, brother. Oh, I did? Oh, I'm going to do another podcast short on it. I was like, I don't remember that. Hey, guys. Hey, Clay.
Hey, Gary. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm new to this, so forgive me.
Welcome.
I appreciate you answering the question earlier about my wife. She has since then, we found a holistic doctor, and we've been going to him for some time now. And she is still experiencing, like, she just cannot breathe. a lot at all every single day. She still has the pot symptoms. She was tested for that, and it was negative. Pretty much all these things she's been tested for, they're just telling her she's fine. Pushes medicines. She's tried gluten-free now for 2 months. She just went dairy-free for a few weeks, and her eating issues is just like, it's like her body is just kicking everything back. Like she just can't eat anything without hurting, and it's just horrible.
So this is when, this is when like the search for invaders starts, right? So you may want to write these down. If you got a functional medicine doctor, you're gonna guys in the VIP community, you're gonna get tired of me saying this, but this is gonna save the life or change the life of a loved one that you have at some point, because I'm really gonna drill it into everybody's head. Mold, mycotoxin, metals, virus, parasite. The reason why I keep coming back to those is that these are not done on any kind of routine or even really comprehensive panel, right? So going to the doctor, looking at your hormones, looking at your comprehensive metabolic panel, your complete blood count, your triglycerides, your lipid profile, all of those things that they normally test for, which are amazing tests, rarely will test for these types of underlying invaders. And what happens is they hide in the body. They cause all kinds of aberrant symptoms. And based on the symptom, we go after the system. So in other words, she starts having rapid heart rate, tachycardia, bradycardia, changes in heart rate, changes in blood pressure. Now we're looking at the cardiac system. She starts to have mood numbness, and mild depressive symptoms, and so severe brain fog. And now we're looking at a mental condition, right? And then she starts to have problems with bowel movements, gas, bloating, constipation, irritability, cramping. Now we're looking at the GI symptom. Instead of saying, where could all of these things meet? What's the one thing that could be causing everything, right? And very often, especially when there's a rapid onset of multiple systems, right? I mean, very rarely are you just walking down the road one day and you get home, you go to sleep, and you wake up, and now you have a mental illness, and you have an autoimmune condition, and you have cardiac issues, and you have gastrointestinal issues, and like the whole world seems to be going to hell in a handbasket. Usually, one thing causes everything, if that makes sense, right? So we got to find that hub of the wheel where all the spokes leave from. And if it were me, and I had done all the testing and been to the cardiologist, like her thing said, you said GI, cardiologist, OBGYN, primary counseling, no one has answers. That's because no one's asking the right question. And the right question is, what is the thing that could cause everything? And very often it is one in those four categories. I mean, it is astounding to me how many conditions are diagnosed as pathologies, as diseases that actually are, one of these invaders. And I'm sorry to tell you guys, everyone on this VIP call right now has parasites. It's whether or not you're managing them or you're not managing them. Every one of you has had viral infections at some point in your life, and they are now a part of your DNA, right? If you have mono as a child, just like the woman that was on here earlier, it comes back as Epstein-Barr. She didn't catch Epstein-Barr. She always had it. If you have chickenpox as a child, it comes back as shingles as an adult. You didn't catch shingles. You've always had it. So the question is, what are the conditions that cause these things to manifest, right? And in her case, it's probably immunofatigue. But in your wife's case, I would go, now that you've done all the right things, cardiology, GI, and you've looked for the very obvious, I would go for the less obvious, and I would try to find the thief in the temple. I would look for these kinds of invaders that actually hide in plain sight and don't show up on typical blood tests.
Awesome. Thank you. She had a blood panel done at her holistic, and I have trouble understanding a few of these things, but there's several that's highlighted red, including her A1C, which was at 5.8 when they tested it in November.
Yeah, that's pre-diabetic.
And she was one of the healthiest, worked out every day women I knew, and then now it's this, and she still has these issues. So I was just
Remember, what can send her hemoglobin A1C into a tailspin is stress. Cortisol can send your some of the fittest women that get under a lot of stress and don't sleep well. Their cortisol, when their cortisol is high, it can very often mess with their very often mess with their blood sugar. And then we go looking into the diet when the diet's good, or exercise when exercise is good, when we're not looking at sleep and stress. And obviously in the condition that she's in, she's going to be stressed. So I'm not surprised to hear that there's blood sugar regulation issues. Hemoglobin, 5.8 is high. It's pre-diabetic, it's not diabetic, it's not insulin dependent. Okay, let's set room for a couple. Sandra.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, it always worries me when people are driving.
I've got somewhere I'm about to pull over.
Okay.
So I have I was diagnosed with breast cancer about a year ago, and even though I didn't want to, I went through the chemo. Luckily, I didn't need radiation. So now I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out why I got breast cancer. I don't have any genetic predisposition to it. But I definitely feel like it's something going on in my system. So I'm trying to figure out what that is so I can keep that from being an issue ever again. I obviously don't want it to come back. I did do a nutrition genome test, but it's really hard for me to interpret it. And also, I would like to know if there's any recommendations you would have as far as it's a triple positive breast cancer, so I would really like to not have to take the aromatase inhibitors and the tamoxifen if I can figure out a way around that, because I don't feel like that's probably the best thing to do to my system to become healthy.
Yeah, great ways to eliminate estrogen are things like DIM, diindolomethane, which is an over-the-counter cruciferous vegetable extract. It's 3-indole carbinol is the compound in plants that's extracted into something called diindolomethane, which is DIM, which is DIM. And DIM is a great way to eliminate excess estrogen from the body. Certainly not telling you not to take your medication. I'm not qualified to tell you not to take medication. The other thing that I would really do is I would start living a sugar-free, low glycemic, non-negotiable exercise lifestyle. I would begin to structure all of my meetings and travel and work and engagements around sleep and exercise. Full stop. I talk about this all the time. I'm as busy as anyone that I know, and travel as intensely as most people that I know. And but one thing that I'm militant about is self-care. And by self-care, I try to go to bed relatively at the same time. I really focus on my sleep, getting adequate sleep. Exercise for me is a non-negotiable. And my day doesn't start until later in the day, usually not earlier than 10 o'clock. And the reason why is because I have to give that time to self-service so I can give the rest of my day away, like right now. I'm in service to you guys. Women struggle with this more than men. 82% roughly of all autoimmune disease is found in women. And the reason for that is not because autoimmune disease is gender specific. It's because autoimmune diseases attack the weak. They set up shop and manifest in bodies that are not prepared to defend themselves. So very often, by not putting ourselves first, engaging in self-care, thinking that taking care of yourself is selfish. This is especially true for women, caregiver syndrome, putting the needs of their spouse, their kids, their career, even their friends first before the needs of themselves, leads to a slow decline in the immune system's capacity to protect itself. Remember, all forms of cancer, regardless of their form or their origin, were at one time a healthy cell. That breast cell that became malignant at one time was a healthy breast cell of yours. It changed its metabolism from a healthy metabolism to an unhealthy metabolism. It switched its form of energy, essentially. And so the best way to protect ourselves from that happening again is to strengthen our immune system. Believe it or not, very likely most, if not all of the people on this call have at some point had circulating tumor cells in your body, but your immune system spotted them and killed them the way that they do with senescent cells, the way that they affect positive cellular autophagy. So I would be focusing on sleep, hydration, whole food diet. Exercise would be non-negotiable for me. I would do everything I could to eliminate processed foods and seed oils from my diets, the things that we know get in and poison us. I would, if you have the financial wherewithal, I would do as much of my diet organic as you can. And I would regularly be supporting my body's natural detox pathways. Again, back to sauna, cold plunging, hot showers, sweat. Anything that makes you sweat makes you healthy. And those are like the foundational lifestyle choices that I would make so that you become inhospitable to cancer, setting up shop.
Okay, I did on that nutrition genome test, like one thing that did tell me was that I have an issue detoxing estrogen. So
detoxing estrogen, yeah. Aromatase inhibitors prevent the aromatization of estrogen. Estrogen eliminators like DIM, diindolomethane, will help you get rid of excess estrogen. So you probably have something called the COMT gene mutation, COMT. Well, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the one that doesn't allow women to effectively eliminate estrogen. That is a great support for COMT is hydroxycobalamin, that specific form of B12, hydroxycobalamin, the complex of B vitamins, methylfolate, glutathione. Those are all amazing things to help with your body detox. And DIM, diindolomethane, capital D, capital I, capital M, the cruciferous vegetable extract that helps get rid of what you're referring to, which is phytoestrogens, the estrogens that you're not eliminating down what's called the E2 pathway. And so, yeah, it's good that you know that you have that gene mutation because you can supplement for it. Awesome. Guys, this is really good, and that is a more common question than you think. So women that, if you're struggling with estrogen dominance, you should be tested for that gene. Hi there.
Hi, Gary.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Amazing. I'm glad we're talking.
I am too, actually. So I have all these questions, and I thought, how do I sort of hone it down? I have a daughter who has a goiter. And she has had the 2 tests on it that they can't be conclusive whether it's cancer. Now they want to remove half the goiter to test for that. She's also exposed to a lot of electromagnetic fields. And so I have these 2 questions. One is, it's sort of leading to both of us because I'm electromagnetic sensitive. And I'm wondering, I've heard of FSM. Have you heard of that? Frequency specific?
Frequency specific, monitor. Those are rife frequencies.
Right.
Yeah.
So the 2 questions were, one, do you think it might help her goiter go down? And 2, like we're trying to do things before she has half of it removed to test to see if it has cancer. I guess they can't tell from a small test. But the other thing is I do have the MTHFR gene mutation. And so I'm wondering if I can do those other tests to find out if that has anything to do with why I'm sensitive.
Yeah, so you can. So if you're EMF sensitive, electromagnetic frequency sensitive, without redoing your whole house and everything, you can start the mitigation, EMF mitigation in your bedroom. So EMF mitigation, I have a silver tent over my bed. Dr. Mercola, Mercola, sells these in varying sizes. They're not extremely expensive. They're usually like a PVC frame, and you put the silver fabric over it, and then the silver fabric connects to a grounding mattress, which is plugged into your wall. Very often, and everybody should listen to this. Very often, if you're in high EMF field, right, and you have a grounding mattress, and you're sleeping on a grounding mattress, it will draw the EMF through you to ground itself, right? So it's exactly defeating the purpose that you're setting it up for, right? Because what are a lot of these fields trying to do? They're actually trying to ground, right? So let's say that you take a mattress that you're sleeping on, and you put this into a really high EMF field, microwave, radio wave, 5G, Wi-Fi, all of these different fields, and you're trying to just ground yourself. You're not just grounding yourself, you are drawing those fields into that grounding source, which means they have to go through you to ground themselves, right? So you actually can make EMF sensitivity worse by using a grounding mattress.
Okay.
So I just want to caution you against that, because I know a lot of people have a hard time putting that together. The other thing that's very common in people that are EMF sensitive is they don't realize that large appliances on the opposite side of the wall from where the head of their bed is are particularly an issue for people with EMF sensitivity. So washers, dryers, dishwashers, very often, depending on where your bedroom is in the house, that back up to the wall of that, those are 220 volts. Those are really powerful sources. In commercial installations, the electricity is inside of what they call conduit. So it actually shields the EMF. In residential installations, they're in usually the electricity is in something called Romex, which actually lets the field out. And so I might think about doing some EMF shielding to see how she feels. And Dr. Mercola has a great line of shielded products. They're not super expensive. If you are going to use a grounding mattress, make sure it's grounded to the EMF tent and not to your body, right? Because that could also be an issue. Unless you're, in a rural area, you're out in the woods, or you're in the countryside, you live in a very rural environment, then you're probably not getting bombarded by a lot of EMF frequency, and the grounding mattress wouldn't be an issue.
So I've done, I have actually, my windows are all covered. I actually slept in a tent until I was put on oxygen. So now I have all my windows covered with a silver lined fabric, which reduces it about 50%. But I have my Wi-Fi shuts off, half day. I have it on just during the day, so it shuts off automatically. And I've done a huge amount of things that you're talking about as well. Mm-hmm. So my question now comes is there a way to heal from it? I've had it for 10 years. And
goiter? Are you asking about the goiter?
No, the goiter's my daughter, but she's the one also, she's more exposed than I am because I'm shielding myself. And I'm not sure if the goiter could be caused by a high EMF. She can't really protect herself from it. It's where she works.
Yeah, but you're saying is heal from what? Because now you're jumping to yourself. What
I am. I'm jumping between she and I.
Okay. So heal from what?
With the test for all these different, I am MTHFR gene mutation. I do have that, but I haven't been tested for the other ones. Could any of those make me more susceptible as to why I have all these sensitivities
that's a great question. I don't know that I have a good answer for that. I currently have not read clinical literature that would say that certain gene mutations heighten the sensitivity to EMFs.
Okay.
That's actually a really good question. Maybe
and do you think
I'm really stumped.
The second question goes to that goiter. Could electromagnetic field exposure cause a goiter, do you think?
I'm not aware of EMFs causing a goiter. I am aware that EMFs can aggravate goiter, just like they can aggravate thyroid conditions. I don't know that there's any evidence they directly cause thyroid issues, but I know they exacerbate thyroid issues. I mean, as an example, the first night my wife and I slept in an EMF tent, she got hyperthyroid and doesn't have any thyroid issues. She's on thyroid supplements for her thyroid, but we actually had to stop those supplements because she got hyperthyroid. So they definitely can affect the thyroid. All right. Awesome. Well, it was great talking to you. All right, 5:03. Can we do we're over the time, but that's okay. I'll do one or two more. Roxanne?
Hey, Gary. Can
Hey,
you hear me?
Roxanne.
I have been following you since like 2010. I'm a huge fan.
Wow,
My
thank you
first
so
time to
much.
talk to you. I know that was before 10X.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was before 10X. That was in the Streamline days.
Yes. Yes.
Wow,
So,
thank you so much. That's super kind
well,
of you.
you're a superstar in our house. So I just want to thank you for
Oh,
what you do. And we've tried to implement so many things. And after the morning routine challenge last week, we're getting up with the sun. And I guess my first quick question is, how long do you need to do like the horizon gazing? Is that just
3 to 6 minutes is all
oh, it's
you
all?
need.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually a term for it. Intrahuman it talked about the research. I forget the exact term is, but essentially there are a lot of instinctual mechanisms in the human body, right? Like reflexes, for example, Babinski reflexes, ways of testing infants for proper nervous system. There are things like mammalian dive reflex, where as you expose your face to cold water, your body enters a parasympathetic state, meaning it actually slows your heart rate down and calms you down, which is one of the reasons why I tell people to dunk when they get in a cold plunge when they first get in, not at the end. As mammals dive deeper into the ocean and the water moving over their face gets colder, it actually reduces their heart rate, improves their oxygen utilization. So horizon gazing is one of those things when you fix your gaze on the horizon. It's one of those things where we are innately, whether you realize it or not, we are constantly scanning the environment for threats. And by threats, I don't mean, somebody's going to jump out of the bushes and attack you, but I do mean that our brain is constantly scanning for threats. One of the actual mechanisms of putting yourself in a parasympathetic state is to keep your head neutral and horizon gaze, and then laterally move your eyes as far as you can to the left, and laterally move your eyes as far as you can to the right, and then move them back to center, and then move them to the left, back to center, right, back to center. This mimics a horizontal gaze pattern that we use to scan the horizon for threats. And when you don't receive a threat, it actually calms you down. Almost like if you walked into a dark room and it was the first time that you were in this room, you might feel a little bit of anxiousness, and you turn the light on and you look around and you feel yourself calm down, right? I mean, and so that horizon gazing does put you into that sympathetic state. So 3 to 6 minutes is all you need.
Well, we're in North Alabama and it's so cold in the mornings. It's like, okay, I don't really want to do my breathing right now. I just want to do what I need to do to get
out there for 3 minutes, even
Yeah.
letting a little bit of sunlight hit your skin, even if it's cold, just actually scanning that horizon in the direction of the sun as far out as you can look. We spend so much of our time right here. And this is not where human beings were ancestrally meant. I don't like to use the term evolution because I don't believe in it, but evolutionarily, it's not where we were really meant to spend our time, right?
That's true.
Right here. We were meant to spend our time out here. That's why trips to nature are so good for you. Yes. Like, that's why I encourage people, the next time you take a vacation, forget a nightclub and a Vegas show and a bar and a 5-star restaurant. Go to a remote place, rent a cabin in the woods, and just walk around with your spouse and your kids in the woods for a while, walk through a stream, pet a cow, go fishing, like get out and back in touch with Mother Nature. And there's really true healing frequencies that come from that, right? There's true benefits from reconnecting with nature.
I love that. I totally believe that.
I do too.
Well, you were talking to Mike about not following medical advice. So this is really the crux of my question. My husband is 62-year-old male, obviously 6 foot, 200 pounds. We did the 10X gene testing, and he was yellow, COMT, MTRR, and the MTHFR gene mutation. So he had those 3. No reds. They were all just. He's got a couple of issues. One of them is acid reflux. And he's been taking Dexlant, that PPI proton pump inhibitor, since about 2008. He has a real threat of esophageal cancer. He was like a 4 out of 4 on one of the tests that they did when they went in
Barrett's esophagitis.
Yes, yes. And so they put him on losartan, 100 milligram tablet. But one of the side effects of that is bone loss. And last summer, he was diagnosed with osteoporosis in his back and osteopenia, I think, in his thigh, in his leg. And he had first surgery of his life. Like I said, he's 62, and his first surgery was last summer, where they removed part of 2 parathyroid glands. And the doctor thought that's what was causing the osteoporosis. And he's lately been tested, and he still has it. He was hoping that the calcium supplements would, prevent or reverse the osteoporosis.
Okay, this is super. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
There's one more last part to the fact. He has elevated blood pressure since about the same time, 2008, hypertension. He was on 1 prescription of Dexilant, 60 milligrams, and last week his GP recommended he go on a 2nd prescription of blood pressure medicine, and that's an HCTG hydrochlorothiazide. It's 12.5. And he hasn't started taking it, and I'm like, I need to talk to Gary about this, because I don't think you need to be going on more blood pressure medicine.
Okay, I certainly can't advise you whether or not to take or not take.
No, I know,
because that would be outside of my scope. But there is a critical point that I cannot emphasize enough that you just brought up. The majority of primary care physicians, modern medicine, believe that deficiencies in calcium are what cause bone mineral loss, and that cause the mineral density in the bones to lead to osteopenia, which leads to osteoporosis. So here's how bones are made. You take calcium and something called phosphorus. These combine to form something called hydroxyapatite. Our bones are not calcium. Our bones are hydroxyapatite, similar to our teeth. Hydroxyapatite is the combination of calcium and phosphorus getting together and increasing their density, which we're calling, bone density. In order for hydroxyapatite and calcium to form densely for osteoclasts to build bone, or osteoblasts to build bone, what we need are 12 minerals. We do not need excess calcium. If you look at nursing homes all over America, they are full of elderly men and women that have osteopenia and osteoporosis that have been on calcium supplements for 15 or 20 years. The answer is not calcium. The answer is minerals. And I used to know all 12 of them, but it's boron, iron, manganese, molybdenum, silica, magnesium, zinc, and one or two others. But in any case, there are these 12 minerals, which is why I really recommend Baja Gold Salt, because a lot of people with bone density loss have bone mineral density loss. And that's what they have. And the second thing we do is we forget to mineralize the body and apply a load. The easiest way to apply a load, you can actually get one of those simple, small, round trampolines and actually bounce on it. And believe it or not, that drains the lymphatic system. And at the bottom, when you shock and go back up, even though you don't really feel it, it's shock loading the bone, right? It's telling the bone you need to increase in density. There are more expensive options like a sonic shake plate, which will cost you $13,000, $15,000, but one of those trampolines is not expensive. The other thing that I would look for in your area, I would Google OsteoStrong. OsteoStrong, and I would see if there's an OsteoStrong location. There's hundreds of them around the country where you can go, and you actually go into these centers and you do different, very easy exercises. You're static, and they load the bones very safely. It actually feels good. They usually have massage tables in there and all kinds of other stuff that you can play with and fun. And these clinics are specifically designed to increase bone density. So I would be looking at minerals, something like that, and bone density. I would certainly be having homocysteine checked for high blood pressure, be taking something like trimethylglycine. I would be doing hot and cold contrast therapy to exercise the peripheral vascular system. I would be doing sauna if you have access to that. I would be hyper controlling my blood sugar if if I were in his position, I would try to keep my hemoglobin A1C below 5.5. That's the 3-month average of your blood sugar below 5.5.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome, guys. All right, I'll see if I can get to 3 more questions. Let's fire it up, guys. I hope you guys are getting value out of this today. I feel like I've been eating your face for 2 hours. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Gary. It's so nice to meet you face to face. I think I've been exposed to you for maybe the last 2 weeks. You showed up in a couple of my reels. And
once I get into your reels, you can't get me out. I'm like
I
like
know.
a virus in your phone.
And you, then I joined your morning challenge and I did that. And I have been like trying to just absorb a lot of things. But anyway, I'm 58 now. I've had health challenges since I was in my early 20s. I started having to have colonoscopies and have been growing precancerous colon polyps my whole life. It's strong genetic on my dad's side. I've never had any genetic testing done. But then just a lot of chronic health problems, ended up having a hysterectomy when I was in my early 20s. Then I was put on estrogen supplements and ended up getting horrible migraines from that. And when I discovered that, it took me about 10 years to figure it out. I stopped taking the estrogen and the headaches kind of went away. But I was at one point on 13 different prescription medications, been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, was actually put on disability because of it. And I've put a lot of weight on. I struggle really hard to get the weight off because of the chronic pain I have. And so we just recently got a dry sauna and I've started using that. I have a red light panel and I'm starting to try to do the cold showers. I'm going outside.
Remember, aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort.
I'm going outside and I'm doing breath work every morning, even though it's like 32 degrees outside. And I'm getting my feet in the grass and I'm trying to do the breath work. And, I'm trying to do everything I can to figure out how to get myself. I have a goal. A couple of years ago, I don't want to cry. My husband and I went to Yellowstone with my son. And they hiked down to the bottom of the canyon and got to see some really cool things. And I'm so out of shape that I had to stay up top and watch them go because I couldn't go. And I have a dream of going back there and walking down that canyon. And I just struggle to get the weight off. And I've got dry, cracked feet. So every time I try to walk, my heels just crack and they bleed. And it's so painful. And the tendons in my ankles are so knotted up. And I've actually had a podiatrist tell me if I didn't get more circulation in my feet that I might be looking at amputation. And I'm doing everything I can to avoid that. But my question for you is when I get into my sauna, I don't sweat. I mean, I sweat like in my groin area, but not in the rest of my body. And my husband and my son, they will just drip like crazy. And so I don't know if there's something going on in me that's making it harder for me. Maybe it's because I'm so big. I kind of thought bigger people might sweat more.
Yeah. So, no, this is actually a sign. You're sweating. You're just sweating beneath the skin. This is actually a sign that, the surface capillaries are beginning to retreat from the surface of the skin. So this is where we're going to start. First, there are lots of things that you can do if walking is hard, your feet crack and split. And it's anywhere within the budget, or you can get to a local gym, actually using a Precor machine where your feet don't leave the contact of the machine. These are low impact, very safe ways to properly restore the mobility. And you can actually get, it's very hard sometimes, if you're heavy to cycle on a bicycle seat. So I never really recommend that. So there are two things that you can do to actually get the cardiovascular exercise without putting all of that pressure on your feet. One is a recumbent bicycle, which you can find at almost every gym, that has the wide seat and the handles on the side, and you're recumbent and you're actually pedaling the bike in front of you. The second are Precor machines. And literally, if you can do 3 minutes, that's where you start, right? And the other one is the Precor, where you actually have arms and legs but your feet never lose contact with the ground. So you're not heel striking and forward rolling onto the balls of your feet and heel striking, which causes the cracking and splitting. Also, it's super important to get, a pedicure or have yourself or someone in your family actually sand down those calluses. What happens is the calluses get really, really thick, and the callus cracks and splits the skin. But if you're actually able to remove the callus down to the surface of the skin will actually be fresh and young and vibrant, and it won't crack. The other thing I would love for you to do is next time you're driving by a Home Depot, go in there and get yourself one of those $6 welcome mats. The prickliest, cheapest welcome mat that you can get. Those little green ones that have the little plasticky things that stick up, that you scrape things off of your shoes? Put that in your sauna, and when you're in your sauna, in your bare feet, contact that mat. What you have to start telling your brain is that there is a foot there. And the worst thing you can do is further pad and isolate that foot, because what I want to do is I want to stimulate those nerves. I want to tell my brain there's a foot, a heel, a toe, little toes, there's a bottom of my foot, there's balls of my feet, there's tissue down here. Send blood here, right? And so you can actually run your feet around it. You can, when you're sitting there, scrape your feet on it. You can march on it. You can tickle your toes into it. I want a lot of stimulation coming into the feet. I used to see these people with diabetes, that had diabetic neuropathy. They would come into our clinic this years ago in Naples, and I would go, "Why are you wearing those shoes? Those 2-inch thick padded shoes?" "Oh, my doctor told me to wear them because I'm losing sensation in my feet." I go, "What do you think those shoes are doing? Further desensitizing your feet. Take those shoes off, get a welcome mat." I even have people, I know it sounds crazy, but put them as almost like a running carpet in areas where they spend a lot of time, by the stove, in the hallway, in front of their sink, so that they're contacting these surfaces, and all of that prickly stuff, it improves circulation, neural sensory. It's telling your brain, hey, there's a foot here. When you start to get heavy calluses, and reduced blood flow, the nerve impulses from that area of the body get worse. So I want to stimulate that. So I would either give yourself or get a really good pedicure where you actually sand those calluses down to fresh skin again. Rarely does the skin, the fresh, healthy skin, actually, crack and split from weight or even from contact. It usually cracks and splits because a dry surface callus splits, and that split in the callus fissures into the healthy tissue, right? So that's another one that I would do. Also, hot and cold contrast therapy with your feet is excellent. From very cold to very warm to very cold to very warm. In the case of compromised circulation, end on heat. I tell most people, going from cold plunge to sauna, I tell them end on cold. In the case of compromised circulation, you want to end on heat. So if you have like Raynaud's or compromised circulation there, always end with your foot in a warm bath so you've restored the circulation when you're done. This can be as simple as good sized Tupperware container with a couple ice cubes and then a really, really warm one or over the side of a tub, and actually moving your feet back and forth. Put them in there, move your feet around, constrict the blood vessels. Put them in the heat, move your feet around, dilate the blood vessels. Because what we have to start doing is get blood flow down there. Tell the brain there's tissue there, activate the nerves, stimulate that area of the body, improve that circulation, right? The opposite of what most people are told. They're actually told, which is just mind-numbing to me, to put their feet up, rest, and wear thick soled shoes to pad the bottom of your foot, which it will accelerate the neurodegeneration. That was always like shocking to me. So there's a couple things you can do. And those mats at Home Depot are probably, I don't know, 12 or 15 bucks. I'm telling you, the cheapest one you can find, because the cheaper ones have the pricklier plastic. That's what you're after.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, you're super welcome. All right, one more question. Whoa, guns are looking pretty good there. I just see that on the screen. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, are you installing a Starlink satellite right now? Are you in outer space? You're muted. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you for some reason. What does that mean? You have it unmuted. Oh, there's an audio issue. Muted again. This happened with that woman earlier, and then somehow she came back and it was working.
No, she wasn't unmuted. There's something he needs to connect his audio.
You need to connect your audio source to your computer. My team is saying.
Because he's muted right now.
It was in the settings for me, someone said. Yeah, you got to unmute yourself now. Usually bottom left-hand side.
Okay, now tell him to talk.
Okay, now talk. No.
All right, let's take his question, Morgan.
Can you type the question? Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can submit your question into the group, I'll definitely I'll have Morgan get to you. Okay. All right, let's fire up the last question. Reese.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. What part of the world are you in?
I'm in San Diego.
Oh, you're in San Diego.
You've worked with my whole family.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually-
no, I know I have. I just
Yeah.
I don't recognize the background. Of course, I've worked with you and your daughter.
We're now living in California, not in Hawaii. So,
is that a London Bay home by any chance?
no.
I know that sounds crazy question. Okay, because it's a beautiful, beautiful house.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you again.
Yeah,
Been a while since we've been on a Zoom call.
I know. I kind of miss it.
Yeah.
But I will say that you've made a big difference in a lot of our lives, for people that are, questioning, does this work or does, like the sleep apnea, for example. I was using a sleep apnea machine, and since I've done your protocol and worked with you, I no longer use it. So it does work.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I've loved working with your family in the past. We spent a lot of time together and your daughter. So what do we got today, Reese?
I just was curious actually, because the whole dry sauna, infrared sauna, and the red light panels, like you talk the most about red light panels. It seems like the literature talks, it's a crapshoot between dry sauna or infrared sauna. And like, I want to put
I would
it
agree
in
with that.
our home. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, I don't have the space for a red light therapy bed. But I was like, getting a panel, like, so my thought was doing a dry sauna because there's more history in it, and then doing a red light panel.
Yeah, so we have centuries of history on dry saunas. So, I mean, nearly every religion in the world, nearly every civilized nation in the world, from Native American Indians to, you go back to Buddhists. I mean, it has some form of heat therapy. And dry sauna is probably the oldest form of detox that we have on record. So first of all, we have centuries of data on dry sauna. Infrared sauna is using wavelengths of light, invisible light, to excite a water chromophore, cause friction, and raise the heat that way. It raises your body temperature by friction. They're super considered as safe. Some people say it cooks you from the inside out. Some people say it causes more detox. I haven't seen any evidence of those. Here's the point. Sweat. That's the important point, right? Get in there and sweat for 20 minutes. Activate your detox pathways, right? That's what we want to do. So drier infrared sauna, I believe it's a mixed bag. I agree with you. There's more data on the dry sauna. I have a dry sauna. If I had gotten this home and it had an infrared sauna, I wouldn't have ripped it out. I put my parents in an infrared sauna because that's the one that I happen to buy for their house. There are, I use what is it? EMR Tech. Do you know what the name of the one I have in my sauna is? Yeah. I use a red light panel called EMR Tech in my sauna. So it's a little panel, actually has a cone beam red light. It has an aluminum housing. For the record, I don't think they recommend you put it in there, but mine's been in there for a year and it works fine. So, and I just have it on the deck next to me, and I just hit it, and I'll leave my arm forward and just let it hit my rib cage, my liver, get it to my lungs a little bit. I'm just trying to compress time. Probably why I'm exercising in a hyperbaric chamber now.
Yeah.
But But yeah, I think, dry or infrared is, you're right. It's a crapshoot. I think probably data wise, we have a lot more on dry sauna. Most of the anti-aging detoxification, beneficial reduction in all-cause mortality data is definitely coming from dry sauna.
And then which red light, like the bigger red light panels, do you recommend? Or do you
so there are several of them. MedTech creates good ones. Higher Dose has a great red light panel. They also have red light mask you can use for the face. I believe that, if TheraLight would come out with a red light panel, it would be the best in the market. I know that that's in development right now. They're the only ones with constant wave technology. I use a TheraLight red light bed. But that's a big commitment.
Okay.
So those would be my recommendations.
Okay. Thanks.
Amazing. Tell the family I said hi, especially your daughter. You guys were moving last time we were working.
Yeah, she actually just got into naturopath school.
Did she really?
She's going that route.
She's after my own heart. That's amazing. Maybe I'll hire her in a few years.
You would love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell her to come work for the Ultimate Human. We need good people.
But when you talk deep detox pathways, she talks about coffee enemas, liver flushes, and all that. That's all additional stuff that you can do, right?
Yeah. You can do coffee enemas, which are first of all, you need to make sure it's a mold-free, hyper organic coffee, and you need to use really clean distilled water. I still think that you should do those under supervision. People do them at home all the time. I just think you should do them under supervision, just in case you perforate something. You can do coffee enemas, regular enemas, ozone, rectal ozone, transdermal ozone, intravenous ozone. Those are all amazing ways to detoxify.
Well, give her 4 years. You'll see.
All right. Well, see her in 4 years. It's awesome. Thank you for being a VIP. Woo! I don't know about you guys. That was an amazing session. As I said, guys, I know lots of you are on here just trying out your VIP experience. I hope you got a lot of value out of today. The intention is to put value into this community. I also hope that you heard some of the unsolicited stories that people are having. I mean, I really want you to know that being a part of this VIP group means you get exclusive access to early content. You'll get private calls like this. You'll get an incredible community of people. Some of the most passionate, caring, committed people are inside this community. If you start working with each other in the app, a lot of them are as educated in a lot of these areas as I am. I'll see you all again at the end of the month. I'm working diligently on this course. It's going to be free to the VIPs. It will be $1,795 to people outside of the VIP community that actually just want to buy the course. But for you guys, it will be free. I'm trying to improve the engagement that I have with you. I'm also trying to provide more instructional videos and courses, things for free that I can put into the community. Because the truth is, my objective is to teach you the habits of being the ultimate human version of yourself. And these are not going to happen overnight. That's why I have these calls regularly. That's why I built this course, because too much too fast is going to cause people to just stop committing. But if we start with bookending our sleep, and then we develop a really good morning routine habit, and we develop healthy whole food diet habits, and we develop healthy supplementation habits, and then we develop healthy travel habits, and then we develop the healthy exercise habits, and then we develop healthy habits with technology. Eventually we're going to be able, especially through this course, this 10-module course, will take you from wherever you are on this journey into being the absolute ultimate human version of yourself. My intention is not to sell you anything. I've already sold you the VIP